Public service announcements. If the name of this car enrages you, if it drives you up a wall that they've called this what they've called it, this is your reminder that you might be due a prostate exam.
I've done that one.
What? When?
The Tammy video.
Ah, no one watched that. Hello friends, welcome to the most controversial new car of the year. This is the new Ford Capri, and it's the sportier, sexier, swoopier alternative to Ford's Explorer SUV. But is it those things, or is it just a VW ID.5 that's been dipped in custard? Let's just get it out of the way. Let's talk about the badge. Let's talk about the name, because it's impossible not to talk about it. 1969, the original Ford Capri entered production, and it was a huge hit. They sold 1 million of them in the first 4 years. Why? Because it was an aspirational vehicle. It was stylish, it was exciting, it was something you wanted to be seen in, and all of that at a price that normal people could afford. That's what that car was all about. And with this, Ford claims it's back. So let's just say this straight up, plain and simple. It has nothing to do with the old Capri. One of them was a low-slung two-door coupe sports car type thing. The other is a large, high-riding electric family EV. It's got nothing to do with it. It's badge engineering, and I think we could spend the whole video getting cross about the fact that they've called it that, or we could just try to get over it and assess whether or not this is a good car, regardless of what it's called. And actually, the claim in all the marketing spiel for this car that I'm far more interested in than the idea that it's a reborn legend is the idea that it has a sports car soul inside of an SUV body. That is quite interesting, because once upon a time, Ford were very good at making ordinary cars that were just fun to drive. More fun to drive than their rivals. That was their selling point, in fact. Have they brought that back with the new Capri? Frankly, if they have, they could call it the Ford PP Poo Poo for all I care. Now then, out on the road in the new Ford Capri. Let's just get the very obvious part out the way first and say that to drive in a leisurely fashion, this car is very pleasant. Like all MEB platform cars, like all electric cars, really. If you drive it in a slow and relaxed way, it's delightful, quiet, comfortable. I've knocked it into B mode. I've pretty much got one pedal driving now. Effortless, lovely. But the $1 million question, or in this case, the £52,000 question, is what's it like when you attack some corners? Because that's what this Capri claims to be all about. Sports car in SUV body, right? So let's just pop it into sport mode. Here comes a corner, and you immediately notice it's a little bit firmer than the Explorer, which means it stays a bit flatter through corners, which makes it a bit more confidence inspiring to drive quickly. And that's about it, really. It's definitely an easy car to drive quickly, but in terms of engagement, excitement, it's leaving me a little bit cold. I'm genuinely surprised by this, because Ford are no strangers to making great performance cars. Even recently, the final Ford Fiesta ST, the Mark 8, hands down one of the best cars I've ever driven. Petrol or otherwise, any price point, so much fun. But Ford are even one of the few brands that have made a really exciting EV in the past. The Mach-E GT is a wonderful thug of a thing. Something about the throttle mapping and the suspension and the steering, it feels poised to attack. In other words, it had a personality, which is still a pretty rare thing among electric performance cars. And I'm just not really getting much of that from this. It kind of just feels like the Ford Explorer with slightly stiffer suspension. It kind of just feels like all the other VWs that sit on the same platform as this. It kind of just feels like Ford didn't try that hard. And as a result, my overarching impression from my first drive with this car is the same as it was when I first drove the Explorer, which is, it's fine. The Explorer, it's fine. It's not the best of the kind of medium-sized electric family SUVs, but it's fine. If you can get one on a good deal, go for it. I'm sure you'll be perfectly happy with it. This new Ford Capri, it's fine. But that's the harder to forgive given the higher price point, given the whole marketing spiel about desirability and handling, because, well, where is it? So let's have a little walkie roundy, see what we can see. It's yellow. I think we're all agreed on that. I actually really like this color. There's some really fun color options available for this and for the Explorer. Well done, Ford. Bright colors, bring them back. I like the front end. If you take the whole Capri thing and just put it to one side for a moment, I think this is a smart looking electric family car, especially from the front. There's a kind of feline quality to this fascia that I enjoy. As you come around the side, it's still pretty good. It's quite muscular. Ford's really leaning into its American-ness with its design language. You can see that in the kind of boxy, chunky proportions of the Explorer and now this. It's round the back where they just start to lose me a little bit, because this is kind of like a slightly chubby Polestar 2 for me. I mean, it really is quite a lot. And then as you get all the way around the back, it's just a bit fat. There's a lot of car there, very much SUV more than coupe. I gather the reason for this is they were adamant on not compromising boot space and rear headroom. It's good in those departments, I'm told. We'll get to that in a moment, but it does just have a lot of weight to it, doesn't it? And I said I wasn't going to moan about the whole Capri thing in this video. Can I just have a little holiday from that for a moment and just say, I wish they'd leaned into it further. If you're going to give it that name, that badge, lean into it. Look at the new Renault 4 and Renault 5. Those are full-blown reimaginings of the classic. There's so many details throughout that car that just bursts with the soul of the original. And I would have liked to see more Capri in the new Capri. But maybe, here's a crazy idea, maybe we don't make it yet another medium-sized, high-riding crossover thing. You've already got the Explorer, Ford. This could have been the really impractical one with 2 doors and low slung. I don't know, it would have been nice. I do apologise for that outburst. It won't happen again. Back to the sensible journalism. I suppose part of the reason that this car looks the way it looks is the size and shape that it is Ford didn't start with a blank piece of paper. The doors, the bonnet, the bumpers, they are from the Ford Explorer. And then of course the platform, well, that's the MEB. It's the same platform that underpins VW ID3, ID4, ID5, Cupra Born, Skoda Enyaq, Skoda Elroq, and of course Ford Explorer. It's a tried and tested EV platform. It's pretty efficient, it charges pretty quickly. You can have rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, and indeed you can have both of those for the new Capri. Battery sizes, well, there's just one to start with, 77/79 kilowatt hours. All-wheel drive version gets a teeny bit more for reasons. And that car starts at about £48,000. Soon, there'll be a smaller battery, 55 kilowatt hours, and that will bring the starting price of the car down to 42 grand. Yeah. Interior of the new Ford Capri, and I'll give you the short version, Ford Explorer. It's 9/10 the same car in here, maybe 99/100ths actually. So that means you get the same good stuff, like this cavernous modular glove box, which I really like the Adjusto central screen, which I also really like. And on the higher trim versions, this awesome B&O soundbar that sits on your dashboard like a spaceship has just crash landed there. I like that too. It also means you get the bad things, like all the haptic touchy buttons, this awful panel down here for the volume and the lack of dedicated rear window switches, and worst of all, the haptic touchy buttons on the steering wheel, which they're a complete deal breaker for me. There's no car with haptic buttons on the wheel that I would want to own. It's a hard no for me. But all in all, it's a pretty straightforward, nicely put together, fairly user-friendly cabin. My question, again, as with the outside, is could they not have gone a bit further with the Capri, with the desirability, with the fun? Can't we have crushed velvet on our seats? Could you not have given me climate controls that sort of resembled a cassette player? I don't know. Again, I do find myself looking at the Renault 4 and the Renault 5 and thinking that is how you reimagine one of your classics. That's how you make a car that is really desirable, even if it's not got the best stats in every department, it's the one you want. And I just wish we had just a pinch or two more Capri in here. Ford has recently massively reduced its model lineup. Less cars, each one more purposeful, that's what they say. This is supposed to be the less practical, more desirable alternative to the Explorer, but it appears to just be slightly more practical, because it's got a bigger boot, and not really any more desirable. What it is a good-looking family SUV, but that styling is not going to justify the price hike over the new Skoda Elrock, which has the same bits underneath and costs £15,000 less. And when you get up to these lofty heights, these, you know, 40, £50,000 areas, you're playing with the big boys. Suddenly you've got to compete with things like the Polestar 2, which is infinitely more luxurious than this inside, and for me, just better looking. Like the Ioniq 6, which is just a masterpiece of efficiency, clever engineering, aerodynamics. I think Ford just needed to be a bit bolder and braver with this car. Yet again, I'm reminded of the work that Renault's doing at the moment, of the little Renault 4 and the little Renault 5. That's what happens when you really roll the dice and make something properly different from your rivals. It can pay off big time. But more than anything else, I'm just a little bit fed up with the fact that Ford appeared to have turned their back on the small affordable cars that they were the masters at for such a long time. A segment and B segment, that was their jam. No one could touch them. So where's that then? Well, the good news is it's coming imminently. In fact, just between us mates, we're gonna have a first glance at it on this Ford Capri press trip. I don't know if we're gonna get a chance to show you it or not. That's the Puma EV, an electric version of the UK's most popular car. That is a massive, massive moment for Ford. All the more so in the wake of this slightly underwhelming pair in the form of the Explorer and Capri. That's the car that we need from Ford, and I just hope that they've put a bit more effort into it than they did these. That was pretty mean, those things I just said there, and I didn't enjoy saying them. I like this brand. My first car was a Ford. I have a real soft spot for them, but you can't pitch your new car around being all desirable and great to drive and then just copy and paste your blobby SUV. Try harder. Oh no, I did it again. I was mean again. That was supposed to be a caveat to make it sound less mean. You know, I said at the start of this video that I was going to try very hard to take the badge out of the equation and just judge this car for what it is. But that's proven quite hard to do. For me, this car lacks the desirability that it would need to justify the price hike over all the equally competent other electric cars that sit on the same MEB platform, and it certainly doesn't have the wow factor it would need to hang with the Ioniq 6 and Polestar 2 that it competes with on price. Oh, so where does that leave us? Well, it leaves me more impatient than ever for Ford to just go back to doing what they always did best and make small, affordable cars. Make the small EV. The good news is, it's coming. The electric Puma is coming. We've seen it on this trip. You'll be seeing it on the channel soon. That is an electrified version of Britain's best-selling car. And boy, does it have some pressure on its shoulders now. So there we go, the new Ford Capri. Do let us know what you think in the comments. I suspect that you'll have some opinions of your own, and we'd love to hear them. Please do make sure to like and subscribe, and if you have been, thank you for watching.